much playtime makes Stitches hungry.
Welcome back to the last series of today here in HGC, where currently Team Naventic sits 1-0 up over B-Step. And quite an interesting game, number one.
I think we'll just leave it at interesting.
Yeah.
You know, innovation on the draft of Naventic and innovation in the heroic choices of B-Step. And one, it looks a lot prettier than the other. That's about the way to put it. We'll see if I want to know if B-Step's going to keep moving down that avenue, right? Because that's the moment where we felt like they looked better as a group, and then sitting in that kind of delete you playstyle. So do they commit to that with different ways to make it happen, or do they kind of be like, that was testing the waters, and now they go back to whatever they feel is better?
Yeah. Looking at Battleground, I'm wondering what we're going to be. But before we head into the Battleground pool once again, I have something that I know you're going to be excited to talk about.
All right.
And that's looking at the supports, the top healers of NA HGC. It's relevant because we have both Kenma and APM here.
Interesting. The top average heals for a team, but also struggling when it comes to KDA, except for Akaface. Akaface is the only one out of all of these supports that sit there in the top KDA. So, what does that mean? What do you get from that? Just curious. I naturally see that is the, you and I talked about, especially when we see people role swapping. You can be a heal bot and be a good support. You can be decent at your role by just making heals all the time. It's the ones that make plays. Those are the ones you know. The ones that are, you're being proactive, not reactive as a support player. And a lot of times the ones that are going to be sitting back healing all day will have higher average healing, but they'll struggle in the KDA department because they aren't setting up the kills. Akaface is the beautiful middle ground, I guess. Best support in A. That's what it says right there. You figured it out.
That's what we get from that. Good job, Akaface. I mean, he did win his last series 3-0, so I'm convinced. Okay, back to our series at hand. We're ready to see where game number 2 is going to take place. And it's going to be Infernal Shrines, picked by B-Step, but could have been picked by either team. Both teams like to pick Infernal Shrines. Both teams have a pretty good record here, too, whereas there are, for both of them, quite a few places where they don't have as good records. 3-1 for Team Naventic, and then 2-1 for B-Step.
Yeah, when you get to the teams that were less dominant within the region, it's not like, oh, both of these teams have an absurdly high win rate onto this map. It's more of who did they beat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my first thought is this benefits Naventic. If the drafts go the same way as in the last game, we know that typically B-Step's not a team that's good at, any map that is more about the objective than it is about killing your opponents and getting the deletion. That's what we've been harping on so far. So then this map isn't one that complements it outside of if you run Kerrigan. That's the only time where I feel like it really does kind of, that death ball is complemented.
I remember in part 1 that Naventic had an awesome Kerrigan composition with Varian Kerrigan and even Medivh, I think, is what they drafted. And then it was a Never Die composition. And they that might have been when they were able to take a game off of Tempo Storm. So once again, Zarya, Tassadar are the bans of these two teams. Now's where we see if Kerrigan's going to be pick up. Nope, Arthas.
Yeah, I think that's the safe bet because it works well into Kerrigan too, right? So if you see it though, I expect it to come out of Naventic in the next 2 rotations. But generally in North America, even a little bit in Korea, she's just kind of fallen off. She still sees play. Even as first pick, we even saw, some of the most dominant teams in the world be willing to move in that direction, but it wasn't every game. It was kind of like, we're confident we can beat you, it felt more than anything.
Arthas Kerrigan, though, that's such an old school
Rip in pieces, double in venom.
Kill comp. That's funny, if the players we're talking about.
A lot of people failed
like
to remember why Arthas Kerrigan were so deadly,
Yeah.
but it was mainly because not only did they have insane kill pressure at level 1, but post level 4, you could stack Envenoms, which used to do damage almost instantly compared to where now it's really, really slow. And it was, I believe, a little bit less damage, but it was so fast. So you just walk in.
Yeah, it was half the time.
Yeah.
The time got doubled.
Even if you didn't hit your Kerrigan combo, you pull them into Arthas slow, he hits the Howling Blast after, the stun comes up and dead all day. One of the scariest 2 heroes in the game for a very long while. But sadly, we live in a, I don't know about sadly, I'm excited we're past that. But we live in a very different era of Heroes of the Storm. The Gul'dan comes out here for B-Step.
Along with Malfurion pairing. Very common.
So now Lucio, and then whatever, I would like Lucio Greymane personally. I think that's a really big power play in this rotation for Naventic. But again, Greymane seems to, you know, elude North American drafts for the most part. I just think Thompson, right? Like, he's going to bust it out. He's the one feeling confident with it.
It does take Malfurion away. That was the highly favored support, but Kenma did have Lucio, like you were saying, and once again, being able to pair that with Arthas is sort of the dream.
Tychus over the Greymane. So Tychus still holding value for the North American scene so far. He hasn't, he's hit or miss. He's not as stable, but he obviously has a place according to a lot of the teams. And this is what we saw at part 1 starting off. Not all the teams agreed on the same thing. As time moves on, everybody seems to have the same thought process. But at first, they're kind of like, no. We think we figured this out better than you. And so you see that jump, and even Lucio here is a little bit closer to what I expected out of, you know, the first series of the day.
Yeah, that's what I was really excited about for today and this weekend in general is the teams aren't all scrimming each other, and especially once they know who their new partners are going to be, or who they're going up against first. So seeing these little pocket metas, right? Meta, but from these two teams is going to be drastically different than maybe these two teams, and which things work out and which things will fall and rise. When we started HGC in a part 1, Tychus had an abysmal win rate and then ended up climbing up significantly to
Whereas
the
Follow
50%.
was the inverse, right?
Yeah,
where
she was at
just
70 and then fell to
top-decking.
40.
Yeah, she just was a monumental fall there. I'm not going to flip my pen this time. Calculated. Dahaka was removed. So do we see a responsive global removal on the side of Naventic? It makes sense, considering, again, you don't want to fall behind in that department, but also into a Gul'dan Malfurion. They struggle against hard dive and burst damage, and, you know, it's a really nice tool to just kind of push them out there, give them the gust. I expect that to be the ban on Naventic. So if that is the case, where do we want to see B-Step move into their draft? Way less kill potential when looking at their draft overall. So then what do? You can't make up for that with any specific pick. You have to meet into that slow playstyle that Gul'dan really promotes. No shielder, so no like enabling front line.
Well, for sure, we're going to see a warrior pickup here. Especially since Naventic played double warrior with Arthas, I think that B-Step can postulate that Naventic wants to do the same thing. We haven't seen B-Kid play Arthas yet, so we don't know if they are comfortable running Arthas solo. So if that's the case, think King Caffeine's warrior here. Do they sacrifice wave clear to get Muradin again?
I'd Leo. Put Caffeine on Leo and then run a KT. It's possible into a double mage. The problem is a new Barak would be a huge counter, and it actually... Okay, so you can't bank that hard. Double mage into an Arthas, a new Barak on this map would be crazy. I actually wouldn't mind in a new Barak on the side of B-Step even, just because it is very good on the map post-10.
Caff played a lot of Diablo. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, so but it's going to be a double support.
Yep.
So then the last is going to be, I'm guessing, a Tyrael on the side of B-Step to move into another warrior. With the Anubarak picked up. But Naventic, if they're going to play double warrior, why not Tyrael yourself? You want to buy time for the Arthas to be able to get value. You want to buy time for the Lucio a little bit as well. And you negate all healing from Anubarak if you stand on Sanctification.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
a
trying to
Tyrael
think of what other,
like, my goodness.
B-Kid doesn't play a lot of Tyrael.
What if
what
he's the Arthas and they put... Obviously, they've changed Zuna's mentality.
Yeah.
He is now whatever he needs to carry, is I'm guessing the thought process that he's going to be distributing. So then it's no longer what is B-Kid's hero pool? I feel it's like whatever they can put it on the best comp, and Zuna will play whatever is necessary.
I kind of feel like they're going to get Johanna again. Bala? Nope, Sonya.
Sonya. Interesting here. Not what I expected for the double front line. Now I'm feeling very good when looking at B-Step's draft here. As long as they get another frontliner to be able to hold their own. Tyrael is, again, going to be one that they could move into. Which, by the way, it's kind of astounding to consider Tyrael got nerfed, and now he sees play in North America. I'm just saying. That is kind of mind-boggling. But what else could you do outside of that? Muradin would be all right. Who can provide shrine control on that front line? Johanna wouldn't do well into this double support. Leo is acceptable, but not good, I would say, in this game.
Yeah, I'm looking through everything. And I'm not sure, especially if it's going to be another warrior. They want another warrior now with Tychus.
I don't feel like there's
Sonya?
any way you don't double warrior if you double support. But they're going to prove me wrong, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yep, that's standard B-Step. Always give me the old curveball, you know? 12-6, baby, right there. It's an old baseball term.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
Anybody, it's okay. So it's a clock, right? And your finger rotation is based on what points on the clock you're hitting. So 12-6, it's a curve.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. You know, we learn something every day.
Yeah, you're always teaching me the baseball terms.
But no, it's so. When looking at the draft, what are your thoughts? I gotta hear. I love especially when the meta is less agreed upon. You know, hearing the initial interpretation on when it comes to how things are gonna play out. I mean, my first fear is just B-Step dies. They have a lot of supporting, not a lot of damage output.
Yeah, I like Team Naventic.
I think
Arthas, again, he can just sit on the shrine. B-Step has to be careful about how they step in. Thrall has to be careful about how he steps in. Yes, there's 2 supports, but it's up to Gul'dan to make sure that he's constantly just throwing all of his abilities out.
the real kicker. Do you Earthquake or do you Sunder?
Did you say Earthcake? Because then that's what I picked.
I think I did. No, seriously, though.
Probably Earthquake.
Only because the Gul'dan.
Yeah.
It really sells me on the Earthquake as well. It's more of like well, you pick so many melees, we're just going to not only split you all, but then drop the Earthquake afterwards, make it hard to be able to recover after that. But it's still a very risky draft.
It can kind of negate the speed boost given to Arthas too. If he gets in a really bad spot, if Sonya gets in a really bad spot too, if he can get the right flanks in, and he, I think, is probably going to be K1 Pro, is my guess.
Yeah.
It's my gut feeling, but
No,
not
I
for
agree
sure.
with you. I agree with you. Again, because B-Step has been so inconsistent in this, I feel like at this point, unless you're the guys on the heroes themselves, you really don't know which one's going to be playing which, but I think it will be him onto the Thrall as well. But, I mean, if you got to drop a heroic to, like, negate a default part of a hero's kit, you know, you're going to have a bad time. That's my initial thought. But they don't have the lockdown or the single target burst to really make things happen with the Sunder into the Lucio. I like Sundering more, but not in this case. But I don't look at the Earthquake as the saving grace. It's more of like just why Thrall, I guess.
Yeah, maybe Sunder will have to be the pickup too. But it seems like I don't know how that's going to work out with Horrify as well. We are ready for game number 2, so let's see what they're going to pick, what's going to happen on Infernal Shrines.
Feel like it's going to get real weird real quick.
Man, that's how I've kind of felt today. And especially sort of last series, especially this series, I'm like, what is going on? But we were that way at the beginning of part 1 too, right? With the drafting, it was like, okay, let's get our bearings a little bit. Let's figure out what's happening in our region.
You know, and like we said, it seems a bit, it's not even just us. It seems like the players themselves question what is right and wrong for a long while until everybody comes to an agreement on something. So B-Step taking what we've seen out of North America and Europe so far, but then dropping the secondary warrior and replacing it with a Thrall.
I'm just pumped to see K1 Pro and Thrall again.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll be honest.
Yeah, he's repping.
So he is the flanker of North America.
Yeah, you're right. He is very good when it comes to abusing Fog of War to be able to get an advantage and set his team up for really big plays.
Again, Fell Flame build Gul'dan.
Into an Arthas once more. So risky positioning, but a lot of damage output if they can make it happen into the... I am worried about, on Naventic's draft, the one thing I do really not like is the Lucio supporting into a Sonya on a Shrine early game. Like, legitimately, oh man, beautiful knockback damage. Not enough. Kenma, once again, skates right on out of a risky situation. K1 Pro doesn't get hit by the Howling Blast. The spear connects and body blocks there. So both teams looking for a gank in opposite lanes, but Naventic is the one to be able to get the kill.
Nice Detainment Strike with Roots to follow up, but Kim is keeping Big Impact healthy.
But what I was saying about the Sonya is just she doesn't really have much supporting. Lucio doesn't have good enough supporting outside of just running away to be able to heal her up in the early parts of the game. Whereas the Gul'dan and Nubarak Thrall has enough single target lockdown that the Arthas isn't that intimidating. So I actually do fear the first shrines for Naventic, even though typically you see Arthas Sonya, you go, you won the shrine. Not the case into a double support.
But I think that Sonya can just sort of skirt around and hit someone if they're out of position, but otherwise rely on Arthas, Tychus, and Vala to be able to provide the damage in the wave clear. So yeah, she can't maybe be as ham as she would like to be, but the backup of having those other high damage heroes should, I think, be enough that Naventic can, ooh, especially if they do that.
That was a good old sweep right there. The 10 tick dream. Howling Blast is used. Everybody here is looking to join. K1 Pro still yet to make the rotation here from mid. 20 skeletal defenders, and without K1 Pro making this rotation, you know, those first 20 were relatively free. iDream in a tough spot, gets the drain life. He's going to be fine for now. Big heals coming out from that double support. 27 to 16 though. B-Step has got to make something happen here if they want to lock in the rest of these skeletal defenders for this Punisher.
Yeah, we would have needed to see them dive and get aggro on Naventic, and not doing that, they back off. They do not want to get caught out of their base with this Arcane Punisher.
And, you know, that, man, a lot of that, the minute I go, you know, I question B-Step's, or Naventic's ability to get those early shrines itself and posturing, you know, is it going to be it? We don't even get to see, because just such a slow rotation out of K1 Pro from the map manipulation and the mini wave on mid force him to stay there. And then again, an early advantage going over to Naventic, significantly bigger than that of the very first game, as they have a member still pushing on top for free. I mean, Zuna's got that drained. Things are falling apart for B-Step, and it's only one kill. And you know, you look at the one kill and you'd be like, well, how can this game really be that bad? But it very much is the case just on how it's been played. This could bait Zuna, though, as he's getting ganked by a Nubarak.
It's a Nubarak. Let's Whirlwind has been used.
Good body block.
Yeah, that was a great burrow.
And he's out. That's Sonya. Cannot be body blocked while using the spin, so the burrow had to be hit to interrupt. It's the only way to actually truly lock him down there.
Hurricane is going to be extremely valuable to Sonya too. We see it anyway because it does just buff Whirlwind in general, but to add to that it removes slows and roots. There are a ton of roots for B-Step, Thrall and Malfurion too, so it has to come down to the stuns, maybe a Horrify too, if they can pull Zuna out of position and try to blow her up that way.
For now, B-Step has just got to be, with the double support, you're worried about the shrine itself. I talked about the first time we saw this in the series today is that we often in North America, because we don't have siege compositions, see any play in between the shrines, but it's even worsened by the fact that they only have, you know, one ranged assassin to do anything. So it's more of B-Step's just going to patiently wait for anything, for just the shrine itself, while Naventic has a composition that can very easily not only wave clear, but we see Merc control that can come out of Zuna, and then with the double range, they also could just be like, hey, 3 members top, we could push on bottom, which is, you know, why we kind of have these small flow, like pause of flow, really kind of a hiatus of gameplay for a while for these teams. It's just a compositional thing, and it's a compositional trend I think we're going to continue seeing if we see this double warrior, double support last. It's all about the map objective.
The timing of the mercenary camp, great for Team Naventic. Sonya can start to rotate in and work on this shrine, and B-Step are the ones who are down a level. So they need to get in quickly and be able to start getting some kills. Otherwise, it's going to only get worse and worse and worse and separate out.
Which is really odd, because looking at part number 1, Naventic was the team who fell in this position every single time. I mean, I was very, very critical of their decision-making when they got there. Not falling into it, that happens, you know, but your decision-making once you're behind, theirs was very, very poor. So only, again, showing that it seems like Naventic has figured something out, you know? B-Step is in the middle of the pack of North America right now, so I think it's a nice starting testing point for them to truly figure out where they are, and right now they're executing very well.
Well, one other change, massive change that we've seen from Naventic is this is 2 games in a row now that Zuna is back to melee flexing, and Tomster is playing Tychus.
It just shows that, you know, Zuna has gone through multiple role swaps in his entire hero's career, but a lot of times it just goes to what he feels like he is going to be the most impactful for his team. And so, yeah, the tone has changed, really. When warriors and double warriors and those melee assassins are going to be more prominent, apparently now he's going to be the one committing to those and forfeiting the range assassins over the Tomster. I mean, I like it. Honestly, I enjoy Zuna on range, but he does a very good job a lot of the time when he is on melee, especially with things like the Sonya and the Arthas. Anything he can be aggro on the melee, as long as he's got the team to back him up.
We'll see if that's the case. Does have his brother, Kenma, playing Lucio once again. Seems like they've been favoring that support a lot, judging by their drafting so far.
Don't blame him. I've been on the Lucio hype train since day numero uno.
Yes, we definitely know how unbiased you are about Lucio.
He's, everything about him. I'm not saying that he's the greatest hero in the game, but I'm saying he's probably the greatest hero in the game.
Oh, there we go. Got it. That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, it just... B-Step here pretty much is in a position that they have to give up everything forever right now. Being a level 8 into what is going to be a 10, they either force the fight this second, which they obviously are not, they went for side soak, or they just give up so many things. Kem actually going in for an aggressive boop. Doesn't net a kill. 10's picked up. Will Syndra Ghost be locked in? They have a big enough lead they could force a Syndra.
Even just threatening aggression is enough to push B-Step back off of defending this fort, which keeps the Punisher healthier and long enough to take this out.
But in top, though, Zuna's actually going to get ganked. He might be able to 2v1 trade. Yeah, that's a Wrath of the Berserker into only 2 interrupts. Man, I was surprised Naventic didn't clump with the 5-man to force more objectives, instead splitting to open up the objectives. Now that they have mid fort and bottom fort, the next logical decision would be all rotate to top. They are painting the map blue for now, but it is smart to, anytime you can, especially on this map, to open rid of the forts as fast as possible so that every Punisher becomes more than just, a walking punch machine.
Yeah, it becomes a possible keep, just like Teammate versus Galeforce Esports. Galeforce getting a super early keep because of the pressure they were able to put on. And Naventic having heroic abilities so far ahead of B-Step, they made the quick move to bottom lane to pick up that fort too. So now only 1 left for B-Step. B-Step have to get heroic abilities.
Yep.
That is the first start. And then maybe immediately just try to fight.
Yeah, it's probably the smartest choice. It's going to be one of the best fights they'll get this entire game if things keep going down this path. And here we do see Naventic is decided to kind of rotate up to top, but not nearly as hard as I was hoping to see out of them. But they did catch K1 Pro, gets the juke on the Howling Blast. But without heroics, but more importantly, just the stat differential at that point. 3 levels is enough to where anybody can get blown up in a 3 versus 1. And once again, Naventic have the upper hand. They are not going to be able to get this top fort as free as they could have. So maybe, maybe not totally min-maxing the experience as optimally as possible, but it's still a huge advantage.
Discussion point on what heroic abilities Nubarak and Thrall get. Shrine will be activating soon, and again, it's 2 levels. B-Step have just now gotten heroics. Team Naventic are quickly approaching level 13, so B-Step are going to start having to make some hard choices. It is all the way up in the top. Maybe they could push in keep someone in mid to soak, and then try to push in the bottom, but instead they're going to run up, try to have Malfurion rotate up quickly too, and then hope that they can maybe get some kills from this. It's a risky decision, but they're pretty much all risky decisions at this point when you're this far behind.
Yep, and Earthquake was the choice for 1. I don't see an argument for Web Wrap. The Cocoon here, Sonya single-handedly and Arthas just rid of it so fast, and it works with the map objective, and they go for it. They're going to Cocoon. So again, I'm guessing Kenma isolation strategy here for B-Step.
That's already Earthquake down and not on top of the Shrine. It was used as Naventic were pushing in. So now Naventic don't have to worry about fighting within that. Gul'dan taken out. Strafe comes down too. Twilight Dream silences for now, but Naventic continue the chase.
Yeah, and K1 Pro here question if he can get a flank to change anything. Sound barrier used. King Caffeine does get the burrow out. That's fine. Good zoning route for APM. Might be able to keep his team alive for a moment. But as you can see, everyone,
APM.
The beauty of Lucio showing perfectly there, the dive potential. I got a question. I mean, I obviously get my criticism at time when it comes to the heroic choices, but specifically the Cocoon. I just don't see an argument for it here in almost any case. There's nobody that you can isolate that wouldn't have the self-sustain and tools to be able to survive outside of isolating the Lucio and then killing the bot. That's the only scenario where I see that. And if you do that, you do it through hard engage. So then why do you go Earthquake? Right? It's just, again, a counterintuitive heroic synergy if you're going to innovate on the side of B-Step.
Like with Tranquility.
Yeah, if you're going to Trank, you do it with the Sync to be able to deal with the low damage output of your opponents and the long dot damage that they actually distribute. And here B-Step again sits in a situation where it's like, well, if you're going to go with the Earthquake Horrified Dream, that makes sense. Locust Swarm is a direct counter to Arthas Period when his heroic's up and you complement the map objective. But then if you go into Cocoon, you're going Burst. You're going to rid of the support and then you all in onto somebody. So therefore, you should match that with everyone else's choices.
Patient play from Team Naventic, not getting the final kill on a Skeletal Defender to allow them to have even more pressure in this top lane. It'll be the Shaman camp grabbed. B-Step are doing everything that they can to mitigate, but so far, they're just really behind in this game. But that is something that happened to B-Step early on in part 1, and sometimes they had miracle team fights in the extreme late game, a 5-man mosh pit. And the same could be said for Twilight Dream and Horrify. You
are very correct. With the Dream swap into a 5-man mosh, the fact that Naventic took all the time in the world, oh man, not even baited over the wall. All the time in the world to really take this fight, and they didn't clear that sidewall fast, I thought was going to be a misplay until Cap was not able to get that bait over the wall here. So the Punisher is still doing fine in HP. Its leap cooldown's up. Finds a target. Beautiful cleanse will buy a little bit of time. But this keep looks like it is going over to the hands of Naventic. And if it does, that is going to be 16 talents here. And no opportunity for B-Step to fight.
16 to 13, Naventic walk away with a major lead in game number 2 of this best of 5. B-Step are left to clean up their base and try desperately to get back into this game, but with no kills, no structures down, no major structures down. If B-Step could maybe win some of those miracle team fights, get some picks on Team Naventic, that might be the answer, but Naventic looks like they're going for the throat.
Yeah, they are not giving anything up. Cap gets onto the point, the boop stops it, the Horrified drops, Sound Barrier actually does not land. And there is the Aegis. Things could not have gone better here for B-Step, but even then, it's only an even trade. Not even! Zuna's on the chase. They still have the upper hand, and McIntyre doesn't have the tools. 4-4-2. That was a 5-man Twilight Dream.
Yeah, Twilight Dream and the Crystal Aegis did a ton of damage with that too. Now Naventic, several of the members that are left are low in health, and the respawn timers are very short still for B-Step in this game. So no way to try to even take down a small wall and go for core, but they do at least get the front wall, and they know that there's a 50-50 chance that the next shrine is here in the bottom lane. So if they do end up getting a shrine there, now there's no way to bait over a wall for B-Step. So Team Naventic, very good understanding of how much they can get away with, judging by winning that fight.
Yeah, it does seem like the Naventic we know, right? Never giving up anything whenever they had the upper hand. I guess more so, I think it's unfair to say it's what we know, because they showed a different side of Naventic for a long while in part 1, but it's the one that reigned over North America for quite some time. And it was the one that they get the upper hand and they never let go. They never give you a single opportunity to look for a comeback. And that invade was a prime example. They were known for pretend invades. That group of players was very much like, you can't stop these guys. And look at, again, the collapsing onto the Thrall up top for the side soak, showing once more the thought process and work that this group of players has put in.
Karam Pro, nothing he could do, so that'll be a dead Thrall at the start of this Shrine phase. Just when B-Step were so close to getting 16 talents, and maybe for once in a very long time a fair fight versus Naventic, but now they'll have to wait for that fight a little bit longer. Naventic can get the setup and start for the Shrine.
There's, I mean, no way with Thrall being dead that anything's going to be happening here. It's more of what can Naventic get off of the Punisher, right? With the sidewall not down, they do have catapult pressure on top, so ideally B-Step should be pressuring that out, because we've seen what happens when you ignore that over the long run. And conveniently enough, Malph's going to go up there to get the clear. Smart play here. So will we see Naventic get over-aggressive and try and make something happen on the keep? Can the counter initiation of the Cocoon, Earthquake, and Horrify, and even Twilight, actually every heroic they have is counter momentum. So do they have those tools here?
This is the moment for B-Step. They finally have 16, they have Rampant Hellfire, and they even got Wrath of Heaven to increase spell power for that Gul'dan. This is it. The Punisher is going to be baited over. B-Kid wants to move in on top of Anubarak, who burrows away.
They get it baited towards mid for a moment, but it's going to be only a mere distraction until the bottom 4 ends up falling. Leap cooldown is only a couple seconds away. The Keep's yet to get focused down. Tomster's more worried about distributing damage onto B-Step. Does not get the kill on the K1 Pro, but gets him very, very low. The Keep now looks like it is just going to fall here, so B-Step loses once more another Keep. Naventic is going to walk away.
B-Step wants to stop this. King Caffeine's trying to buy time until the Punisher's taken out and the team can come back in. There's a route 2. Here comes B-Step to rotate.
They're going to try and force this before 20.
Yeah.
They think this is their only fight. Okay.
K1 Pro's looking for it.
This is, oh man, this is very risky.
I dream.
B-Step was looking to get the force. Gosh, that was, even if they got it, I don't think they win it. That's the problem, is they only succeed when the, okay, so once the Cocoon was dropped, they don't win. They have to use that as an isolation tool to get it, because they don't have any damage. They picked a double support comp and a damage-oriented warrior without the damage heroic, and then a melee assassin who's heroic-based, and then chose the non-damage heroic.
Not even if they got the perfect Horrify and then Twilight Dream.
That is the only situation, but when you use your Cocoon onto only one target and everybody just conveniently comes back very easily, like it's just unrealistic, you know, at that point in time. And things continue to crumble for B-Step.
King Caffeine caught by the members of Team Naventic while the rest of B-Step are trying to clear out their base to get the lanes going. They need all the experience they can get, as well as to try to keep the pressure off of their core so that they can try to contest some of these shrines, but they're a far way off from 20 that Naventic is about to have.
And with that double catapult pressure, and Gul'dan is your best wave clear, puts you in a position where he's also your shrine control. So even when the next shrine spawns, is like Gul'dan has to back to clear of the double catapults if Naventic has any macro pressure at all. So again, it's just, I'm failing to find a win condition here for B-Step, and it's been that way, honestly, since about level 10, or probably 10 to 8. It's just, they drafted it, a risky playstyle once more, and it didn't work out. It not only didn't work out, it was completely negated and countered very early on, and then suddenly now B-Step really can't find any opportunity to try and change things.
Well, the good news for B-Step is the shrine is in mid, where they have some structures to buy time. But the bad news for them is they're running out of keeps, so they're trying to make a fight happen right now, but Naventic, this is full Sonya unlocked. She has Ignore Pain. Yes. She has Nerves of Steel. She will never stop hunting you.
Yeah, Zuna is not afraid of anything. There goes the sound barrier. Cocoon is used merely to save the lives of B-Step. And the shrine hasn't even really been focused on because Naventic knew they had such a big advantage here. Once Odin drops the sound barrier down, this is
maybe the best chance for B-Step.
It's the best, but they still have pressure on core. It's a miracle moment for them, but they have to try.
Earthquake, Horrify, they're going for it. Zuna goes in, steps in with Ignore Pain. Vala blown up by the Twilight Dream, though. It's 1-for-1 on the damage dealers.
They end up getting 1-for-1 before catapults are on the core, so if Naventic buys time, that's it. 90% ticking down. Zuna spinning to win. Just looking at all the health bars of B-Step and saying it doesn't matter because the core is all our focus is going to be. It's getting worse and worse, and that is going to be it. There's no way they can end up making it back at this point in time. And Naventic, in very calculated fashion, beats B-Step here in Game 2.
Naventic up 2-0 in this best of 5. And again, not what we would have imagined, just like our first series.
Showing the break and how it's affected, you know, not only the results, but how. I think that's the coolest part, is it wasn't the standard deathball teamfight oriented coming out from Naventic. It wasn't the, you know, what we know out of Gale Force most of the time. It was a very double warrior, double support, but then we also saw the double global. They even busted out the Zagara. So it's more the showing these teams evolving that I think everybody can appreciate a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And with the decision making too, this is a completely different Naventic, just hands down. B-Step, does seem like it takes them some time to ramp up. Now, looking at part 1 and then part 2 as well, they have a little bit of that breathing room, but not a ton at the same time.
Yeah, it is. It's a good point you bring up. Draft 1, though, fit to what we knew out of them, you know, out of their playstyle, but that second draft did not. It didn't match any of the playstyle that we know them to run in the background. Like, they used to run a lot of double support. The core members of that group used to way back in the day on Sky Temple here and there, but it was still with a way more skirmish-oriented everybody else onto the team, not the kind of solo mage, a Nubarak with the cocoon. Like, it just was a very different version to the point where I agree with you that I think they're slow to gain momentum, but that entire draft and thought process makes me way more fearful for the future of B-Step here in part 2 if they keep it up.
Well, Naventic looking very strong in this series, now up 2-0. We'll see if they're able to close it out and get their second series win in HGC after this.
It's not easy being queen. So many subjects to keep in line. So many scores to settle. I am the swarm. And vengeance has never looked this good.
Snitch is the major threat here, constantly keeping eyes on all 5 members of Misfits. So now that they understand, okay, well, our opponents have eyes on us, let's just make some plays here. Here comes a Moncore leyline shield, big Bolton swing, so fear is smashed, members dying left and right. Splendor focus down, Nurok on the right too. Gargantuan stands as the only member here for the Misfits near the court. Nurok will eventually get swung on, but Dignitas cleans up that fight almost too easily.